Well, as we heard in the scripture reading, the Apostle Paul was always ready and willing to share his testimony of encountering the risen Christ and being called by Jesus to share the good news with the Gentiles, with the whole world. He was always ready and always willing, even when he was arrested by the Romans, even when he was facing an angry crowd in front of him. Well, this morning we are fortunate that we don't have a rioting, angry crowd, but we do have opportunity to share our own testimonies of encountering Jesus and being called by him to share the good news with others. So at this time, I'd like to invite my panel of people to please come forward, and we will enter into a time of ministry storytelling.
This is a Sunday that we have taken some time to look back on the past year as to what has happened in each one of our commissions and maybe some things we're looking forward to. As far as on the council, you know, I've been observing all kind of things that people have been doing, from small to big things, and I know there are things going on that people don't even know about. But like Sherry said in the children's story, it all goes together to make the church run. Sometimes people need a little tap on the shoulder. One of the little things that I have really been happy and almost amazed is at council meeting we have an opening at the beginning, and I've been passing that around and telling different council members to give them a little opening, and it's been really good, some of the openings that we have had from people that you don't always hear from, but they have a lot of thought and insight. So I'm just going to start with Dale here, and he can give his on what's been happening. Are you ready?
The Commission on Education has had a busy year as we work to provide leadership and resources to the variety of classes and activities that take place here at Tabor. There have been some challenges that have come about because of the building project, juggling rooms and teachers as the projects progressed. We appreciate everyone's willingness to be flexible as we started the fall faith formation classes, making do with partially finished rooms and most likely a mess that I made, or maybe Kenton here. We look forward to using the new facility next year and all the possibilities that it will bring. Among the many things on our to-do list this past year was collecting MCC kits during the Advent season, Safe Sanctuary training with the help of Dove's Nest, Vacation Bible School with the theme of Peace Lab, and planning and supporting the faith formation classes and our Wednesday evening meals and children's programs. We hope that through this variety of teaching and training that we have provided an opportunity for you to share the gospel of Jesus Christ with our children, with other adults, to friends and strangers, but we hope that you also have grown closer to God in your own faith walk. In the coming year, we will strive to continue doing the work of the church, to build relationships with the children of this church and the community. Children are the future of Tabor Church. Think back to your childhood days in the church where you grew up. Maybe it was here at Tabor. Who were the grown-ups, the old people? Who mentored you? Who loved on you and shared their faith, wisdom, and grace with you? Who told you about Jesus? As the Education Committee, we will stick to the task of equipping parents and families with the programming and support that is necessary to do the work of the church, sharing Christ, sharing hospitality and hope, and letting our little lights shine. Thank you to everyone who helped teach, cook, clean, plan, pray, give money, be a taxi driver on Wednesday evenings, and the many other ways that you contribute to the work here at Tabor Church. We couldn't do it without you.
Okay. Our outreach committee continues to celebrate the success of our food pantry, which helps meet a basic need in our community. The service Sunday on September 18 provided a number of opportunities to make a difference. The October newsletter included pictures, and page 27 of our annual report book lists some of the tasks we accomplished that morning, from yard work to leading a service at Bethesda. At noon that day, we ate together in the park and shared highlights from the morning. This event was a great opportunity to connect with new people in our community. Thanks to those of you who made it a success. Our committee is super excited to announce a new summer day camp for Gossel community children, scheduled for 9 afternoons in July, sponsored by our 3 area churches. We plan to serve a nutritious meal, highlight Bible stories, and provide lessons to build positive character traits, make crafts, learn about creation care, go swimming, and simply sing and play together. This will be one of our first opportunities to use our new facilities to offer hospitality to our community. Watch for ways that you might be invited to share your gifts in this new venture.
Well, as trustees, it's fairly easy to look back and see what projects we've accomplished over the past year. Most of the year has been devoted to dealing with projects that come about as the building project continues and things that are outside the scope of our contractor, and we need to fill in as necessary. God has been present with us throughout this year as many of you have volunteered to help with many of those things. The first thing I can remember associated with the building project was we needed to move the food pantry, because one of the first things I did was start work on the elevator there, and they were going to make a mess of those rooms, and so kind of sent out a call to get some volunteers out to move things around, get cabinets out and taken downstairs and whatnot. And we had a good group show up, and we got the work done one evening with a good group of people, and Fuquay gave us a $500 deduct on the building project, and so that was good to see that our work was going towards something right off the bat there. Another project that we had was we wanted to insulate this entire roof over where the flat roof was, and Fuquay's part only covered the rooms that they were remodeling, and they gave us a price, and well, it seemed like we could do it with volunteers, and so their price was $5,500, and instead we just bought the insulation for $1,500 and got a group on a Saturday and insulated that whole space and saved $4,000. So this has been going on for the past year, and thanks to all of you, we are really donating quite a bit of our time, and in addition to money that you've donated, but it takes every little bit. In the coming year, we just look forward to continuing what we've done, and continue making Tabor a warm, welcoming place. And there'll be a lot of exterior work probably this year as we get the parking lot in order with handicap parking and lighting and things of that nature. So we ask for your continued help this year. Thanks.
Well, the building committee has also had a very busy year. As a committee that is only convened for about a year, we have to have all of our fun in a very short time. We began by talking with Max Fuquay and restarting a conversation that had stalled about 3 years ago when the congregation was making decisions on the future of the project. We had lots of decisions to make, but despite each of us on the building committee seeing the project from different angles, we agreed much of the time. As we got started, it has been great to see the level of involvement from many in the congregation. Some are professionals in the construction business and were able to contribute their professional skills. Others have been eager volunteers offering to help with whatever projects are needed. Everyone has been much appreciated and has helped the job move smoothly and stay on budget. There have been many great community building opportunities. Getting the drywall hung on the ceiling was one such event. Many people were involved. Getting the 100-pound pieces of rock on the ceiling took a large crew, and there were always workers enough for the job. It was great to see the fellowship happening while the building space with fellowship as its primary intent. When the project started, there were varying levels of support, but it has been great to see everyone, despite their initial support, putting their time and effort into the project. Despite working during the busy holiday time, we attached 200 sheets of drywall as high as 20 feet off the ground in just a couple of weeks of evenings and weekends. It felt like a great accomplishment. Our committee's time is limited. We are hoping to see completion sometime in the late spring. Construction time has been a time of building and growth opportunity in many different ways, and we are excited to see how using the new facility will continue this process.
Well, I am speaking to you today on behalf of the fellowship team, which is 2 of us. So, go Mary. We did have a great team helping us in 2018 with Emil and Vicki and Mark and Phil. But I think our biggest highlight was minnow grass. It was a fabulous turnout, probably record-setting, at least in recent years. We had great food, and we had excellent music and entertainment. So that was definitely a highlight for our team. In 2019, we are looking forward to utilizing our new fellowship hall, hopefully in many and different ways. We are hoping to be able to have Easter breakfast in there. And then, of course, we're going to bring back some of our usual events and maybe some old favorites, including minnow grass again. Hopefully a progressive supper, which was enjoyed a couple of years ago. We're going to do that again. A hymn sing, and then this is camp out year. So be looking for ways for additional opportunities for fellowship with one another that will be coming to you throughout 2019.
So as part of the deacon team, one of the things that is always part of our meetings is an agenda. So if you're part of a committee, you know that there's always has to be an agenda. Well, one evening this past summer, Nathan Graber invited the deacons over. We went to his farm, and when we got there, he said, there is no agenda. He said, I'm going to usher you all to a separate spot here on the farm and give you a chair to sit in, and you spend some time contemplating and absorbing and observing and seeing what messages God has to say to you, and just enjoy an evening of no agenda. And that really was enjoyable. I happened to be in a spot where one of the most active things in my vision was a group of pigs that was arguing over a mud hole. And they were all determined that that was their mud hole and that they needed to have it all the time. And it was interesting to observe how they worked through that process, because in the time that I had a chance to watch them, they seemed to both argue and share the mud hole and come to some agreement about how important it was to them and how they were able to share it. And so that was something for me to think about in my life, in the life of the church, is how we find things that are important to us and agree how to share those and how to get along with each other. I won't go into all the details of what everybody else saw or observed that day. I don't even know. I think everybody had their own no agenda learnings that day. But it was good and it was important. As we go back to having an agenda, one of our goals for this next year is that during our meetings, rather than only dealing with business, we're going to take some time to learn about caring for each other, do some reading and hear from some people that just have thoughts on that, so that we can learn how to care for each other as deacons and care for all of you at Tabor Church and really be intentional about our caring.
As Catherine, Phil, and I reflected on last year, we lifted out two highlights. The first one being the review we had last spring. So thank you for your support and your affirmation and your call to us to serve another term. We are deeply grateful for your support and your affirmation. Second, we remember last spring when we had the opportunity to be team preachers, or we preached as a team, and that took place on Groundbreaking Sunday. I don't know if you remember what we talked about. Raise your hands. I'm kidding. The things that we talked about were keywords from our mission and vision statement. The keywords being hospitality, healing, and hope. And we all talked about, what if we called our new fellowship hall Hall of Hospitality, or maybe Hall of Healing, or maybe Hall of Hope? What would it look like if we did that? So we were envisioning what that space would be for us. During the past year, we have witnessed your enthusiasm, your energy, and your excitement to carry out Christ's ministry here and beyond these walls. The reports right here that you're hearing this morning are witness to what you have been doing, how you have caught the vision, how you have caught the wind of the Spirit moving among us. As your pastors, we envision your enthusiasm and your excitement to grow and to build as we embrace the calling of the church in 2019. In some ways, I think we've only touched the tip of the iceberg. I believe at any point along the way, the Holy Spirit will convict us in ways we haven't even thought about. And as your pastors, we're excited to be on this journey with you, moving forward into new pathways, embracing Christ's calling to be the church. We are Christ's living presence in the world. We are Christ's living presence in the world. I am the church. You are the church. We are the church together. And we are, Christ has begun a good work in us, and we are looking forward to moving together in spirit and in truth together in 2019. So let's do this together.
Well, from a worship planning team perspective, this last year, were very energized through a deeper study of both Luke and Acts during our Sunday morning worship times. But one story that especially stands out to me took place this last summer on July 27. It was a beautiful day, and I remember that the guttering people were here that day, working later that day on the church. And that evening, our sanctuary, if you can believe it, was packed full of people because on a Friday evening in the middle of summer, we were hosting the Western District Conference Annual Assembly opening worship. Our very own Jose was one of our worship leaders that evening. The Tabor Mennonite Church worship team provided energetic music. Brian Moyer-Suderman, who we had brought to Tabor the year before, was the keynote speaker for that evening and for the entire assembly. We celebrated communion together that evening as well. This was a joyful opportunity for us to extend hospitality to the conference and to worship together with the larger body of Christ. This next year, we as a worship planning team are very much looking forward to new worship opportunities, and some of them will take place, hopefully, in the new fellowship hall. Possibly this concert that's coming up in a couple weeks, possibly our Maundy Thursday Holy Week service, some hymn sings, and maybe even in a couple years, we'll be able to host the whole Western District Conference Annual Assembly.
So the Finance Task Force usually focuses on operations and goals and money, but today I want to focus more on emotions and spirits in the stories I tell. A year ago, we decided to spend the money we had committed. 10 months ago, we had groundbreaking, and now our new room is sort of complete, and as yet we have no debt. The completion of tasks and physical accomplishments can give one a well-deserved sense of pride. But lately, that's not what I've been feeling. I've been feeling more like happiness or joy. I'm going to tell you why, and I'm probably going to forget somebody's efforts, and that's not my intention. But here's a list of some people who have come up with unique ways, their own ways, to share in this project. As Phil said, in 2 weeks, we're going to have a concert with both the Bethel and Heston singers, and it's Russell Adrian's idea. Kevin Nichols set a new record for riding a bicycle across Kansas and raised an impressive amount of money doing it. The Trading Post had many happy participants at Christmas time. Brandon and Christy Unruh donated their farm and much effort for Night in the Barn, and those donations went to the building project. Jim Graber, on his own initiative, brought several important ideas to the Finance Task Force because of his professional knowledge. Elaine Unruh and Doris Unruh planned and cooked another successful MCC annual meeting dinner. And Elaine, someday I'm going to ask how many meals she has planned for the Finance Task Force, but not yet. The combined value of these meals is starting to add up. Dale Aldifer is leading a large group of volunteers finishing the interior of the project, and that's a very substantial savings for us. And we have 2 anonymous gifts which are very substantial. The first is an individual who is donating a year's salary to the project as a form of voluntary service. The second is the conditional challenge grant that you all know about that will complete the last $100,000 of our project. Not one of these projects was the idea of the Finance Task Force. That's how good we are. They are the ideas of all of you who have made this project your own. Of course, many of us have continued to give money to the project, and that is ultimately your own idea as well. So for all the thought and inspiration and shared generosity beyond the Finance Task Force, we want to say thanks for the joy.
Very good. I hope that was as interesting to all of you as me. There's a lot of things that were said here. There's some things that I hope inspired you to get involved in, because there are several exciting things coming up this next year. So with that, Phil?
Yeah, let's stand and we'll sing together our hymn of response. Number 1 in your blue hymnal, What is This Place? Let's stand and sing together.